Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Flip Thought Show. It's your host with the most, King Truth, Hosenberg, Benny Bo, the one with the word, the one with the flow. And we coming at you live, man, at 12:46. And y'all check out this. China Mac calls Adam22 a snitch and says he set up Bricc Baby. Let's get into the content. Let's go.
Let's say the feds press Adam and they want some information, and Adam has some
Shout out
information
to
on
Panda
Bricc
Chop
Baby and
TV.
tell Adam, yo, listen, it's either that or we gonna give you a case. Give us the information or we gonna give you the case. What the you think Grand Mason gonna do? Huh?
Well, you guys know China Mac has gone back and forth with Bricc Baby and Adam22 in the past. Mac has been overseas for a minute now making new content, but he took a minute to chime in on the recent Rolling 60s Rico with Bricc Baby, Loose Cannon, and what Adam22 and Whack 100 may be doing moving forward. Man, roll the clip.
You gotta understand Bricc Baby, Loose Cannon, all these dudes that be on that kind of the focal point of this whole thing that's happening, right? Loose Cannon was a rapper, I believe. He was a rapper, producer. Never heard of him before. First time I heard of him was when he reached out to Crip Mac, and I was with Crip Mac, and he wanted Crip Mac to be in a movie or whatever that he was shooting. I met him around that time, but regardless of that, I still never heard of him. You know what I'm saying? I heard of him when he went on No Jumper and said what he said about Nipsey Hussle, and he just made these brash statements like, "Oh, Nipsey Hussle called me and told me this and told me that, and about Big U, and basically like all that." And then that's when the world heard of Loose Cannon. That's when everybody learned to him. He went up there, and I think he just went up there and just made shit up. I don't know. I think he just made the shit up. To be honest, I feel like once he saw that, oh, I could get momentum by just going up there and saying and just telling. So I think he mixes real with made up shit. He does a little bit of both. He puts it all together. He'll say some real wacky ass made up shit, but then he'll add some real shit. You know what I'm saying? With it around there. Once he's seen that and he got rhythm, more rhythm than he ever got with rapping, more rhythm than he got with his reality shows, more rhythm than he got with producing. He said, all right, this is what we on. I'm going to just go up there and say a whole bunch of shit. And he started getting comfortable up there and just started saying anything. You know what I'm saying? Bricc Baby too. Go up there and say anything. Now, I don't know, like, I'm not for sure, but there got to be some rules and regulations about what the fuck you can talk about in terms of like the hood and shit like that. And I think they just lost all sense of that. And they just got blinded by the opportunity, got blinded by the money, got blinded by the fame. And they just started just going, oh, this is what they want to hear. Just keep on talking and keep on doing shit and saying shit and talking about this and talking about that without remembering that you're on camera, and anything and everything that you say can be used against you in court if they put a case on you. And clear as day, obviously they put a case on them, and now all of that shit that you said on No Jumper, all of that shit that you said on Cam Capone, all of that shit that you said wherever the you went, now that shit is getting drawn up, and now they're using this as evidence. They're using this as maybe not evidence, but they're using what you're saying to paint their story. And it's definitely going to help the DA and to frame the story about you. You know what I'm saying? That you're this because you're on camera saying it. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like, yo, man, this should be a clear case study on what not to do in front of the camera. There should be a clear sign of what not to say, what not to talk about on camera. And I don't know why they ain't learned from other people. I don't know why you ain't learned from ARAB and all these other people that got up here and said whatever and got cases, and now they've gone forever. But I think that they was just blinded by that little fame and little momentum and little money they was getting from Adam, and Adam don't give a Adam go up there and say, yeah, that's my homie. That's my friend. But let's say the feds press Adam and they want some information, and Adam has some information on Bricc Baby and tell Adam, yo, listen, it's either that or we gonna give you a case. Give us the information or we gonna give you the case. What the you think Grand Mason gonna do? Huh? That's when he's gonna turn into Grand Mason and not Adam22. That's when he gonna turn into that. I think people just got too comfortable, and it's not Adam22 fault. It's not Vlad TV fault. It's not none of these people's fault. It's not their fault, but they are promoting this. they are instigating this. And yeah, of course, it's up to you to say it. But if you presenting money and you presenting people like Bricc Baby, I just feel like he ain't got no backbone. A person like Bricc Baby ain't got no backbone. Like, and when I say backbone, is like you can be bought. He can be bought. He can be allured with money. He can be tricked with money, fame, and opportunity. He'll trade friendships for that. He'll call somebody a brother. And if, there's an opportunity and he has to throw his brother, his homie, or somebody that he knows that he called his friend under the bus, he gonna do that because he did that to me. That just shows me that he's a certain type of caliber of person. And with that being presented, a person like Adam22 can just trick you into saying whatever. And a person like Wack 100 tricked Loose Cannon to say whatever. I think Wack 100 had this whole like mapped out. He's a very strategic person. He knows the whole dynamic between Big U and Loose Cannon, and they used to be together and And this is what I saw academics say, and I said that, and I thought that there was validity to it. You know what I'm saying? That Wack 100 used that. He played chess with this whole got people up out of there because, So with that being said, man, people just got to be smart. People got to be smart and don't have a backbone, bro. If you know you're not supposed to be doing it, don't let money make you do it. You know what I'm saying? Don't let opportunity or the promise of opportunity make you do it, because that opportunity ain't going to do shit for you when you in the feds looking at 10, 20, whatever the years you're looking at. Whatever money you made, now that's going to have to go to lawyers. You know what I'm saying? And you probably spent that money on lien and whatever the perks and shit like that. You spent all that shit already. So now you got to come up with money for lawyer fees. So it's not worth it. You know what I'm saying? It's not worth it.
Mac really dropped some gems on this one. What Mac is saying here reminds me of what Benzino said with how the internet and the streets were never supposed to cross paths like this. Attention has become the new form of currency, and people will say whatever or do whatever to get validation or that dopamine hit from the likes and comments. Mac is right on the money when he says there has to be some rules and regulations when it comes to what you can and cannot talk about when it comes to street politics. People used to move more by a certain code, and there were just certain rules you knew if you moving in the streets like that. Now there's no order when it comes to these street dudes making content. Not everybody is in agreement on things that are acceptable and what's not. I think the problem with people making content that is street related is it's almost like a slow process where you might start off slow and you don't have any repercussions, so you go a little further and still no repercussions, and it just keeps going until you get hit with that RICO. I think that Mac is on point when it comes to Adam too, because as soon as he's facing repercussions for instigating the shit, he definitely gonna tell. So y'all let me know what y'all think about this, man.
What y'all think, man? I feel like, like I said in the last one, Adam knows what he's doing. Adam does throw these big dollar signs at people for them to spew out narratives that he knows will incriminate them. I think that's the only thing we have on this, bro. Actually, I think Trap did something on it.
Over Sharp Type and TNN Trap News Network, back in the same, like you're cracking the same. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe for more. Let's get content we got going on here at TNN Trap News Network. We back in this thing. We back in this thing.
Shut up, Trap, man.
Thing. That's right, man. We back in this thing, like cracking this thing, man. It's Monday. It's 10:23 in the morning in Atlanta. That means it's 7:23 in the morning in LA. And if you upside, I'm going oops upside your head. If you outside doing your due diligence, I appreciate you. But before you do anything else, make sure you thank God, give glory to God, all that. If you ain't gonna give glory to God, give glory to whatever your higher power is. If you ain't gonna give glory to whatever your higher power is, big dog, you need you something to believe in. Go figure it out. That's between you and whatever you got going on. I ain't saying you got to believe in God. I'm saying believe in something. That's it. I ain't even saying what you got to believe in. Just believe in something, even if it's yourself. Believe in that. Believe in that. You're a good person to believe in. RichTrapHouse.com. Get into the merch, man. If you ain't did that, get into that. If you ain't got into that, man, make sure you like that. Comment, subscribe. Like, comment, subscribe. Like, comment, subscribe. You feel me? Get into that. We ain't get into that, man. My bad. I'm looking at my jujitsu group text. I got a competition this weekend. It's gonna get cracking. It's gonna get cracking. We finna slide over to this Kantiana. Man at the Garden freestyle. Please don't touch my I got a body on it. Fairy tales won't forget Boogeyman. All that stuff now. You ain't got into that. Get into that. And China Mac is really upset at Adam22. So let's see what the Mac Man is talking about. Shout out to China Mackington. Let's get into this content on further ado. Let's get into it. Let's go.
That's Adam, and they want some information, and Adam has some information on Bricc Baby, and tell Adam, yo, listen, it's either that or we gonna give you a case. Give us the information or we gonna give you the case. What the f you think Grand Mason gonna do? Huh?
You gonna tell, dude. We all know that. Look, ain't none of us expecting Adam to keep it solid when it comes to anything doing with law enforcement. Adam gonna take care of his kid. He gonna take care of his he gonna take care of his wife. And I think that he'd take care of the kid before he take care of the wife, if we're being 100% honest. A page named Panda Chop talking about China Mac is very stereotypical. But
In Adam22 in the past, Mac has been overseas for a minute now making new content, but he took a minute to chime in on the recent Rolling 60s Rico with Bricc Baby, Loose Cannon, and what Adam22 and Whack 100 may be doing moving forward.
Man, roll the clip. You gotta understand, Bricc Baby, Loose Cannon, all these dudes that be on that kind of the focal point of this whole thing that's happening, right? Loose Cannon was a rapper, I believe. He was a rapper, producer, never.
this nigga China Mac got sharks.
Yeah, you
Like,
seen that in the back too?
Shout out to China Mac.
Sharks in
Never
the
heard
back.
of him before. First time I heard of him was when he reached out to Crip Mac, and I was with Crip Mac, and he wanted Crip Mac to be in a movie or whatever that he was shooting. I met him around that time, but regardless of that, I still never heard of him. You know what I'm saying? I heard of him when he went on No Jumper and said what he said about Nipsey Hussle, and he just made these brash statements like, "Oh, Nipsey Hussle called me and told me this and told me that, and about Big U." And basically like all that and then that's when the world heard of Loose Cannon. That's when everybody learned to him. He went up there, and I think he just went up there and just made shit up. I don't know. I think he just made this shit up, to be honest. I feel like once he saw that, oh, I could get momentum by just going up there.
At this point, we don't know what the hell Loose Cannon has done and hasn't done or whatever. We just know that everything you say is going to be used against you in that federal indictment, big dog.
And saying and just telling. So I think he mixes real with made up shit. He does a little bit of both. He puts it all together. He'll say some real wacky ass made up shit, but then he'll add some real shit. You know what I'm saying? With it around it. Once he's seen that and he got rhythm, more rhythm than he ever got with rapping, more rhythm than he got with his reality shows, more rhythm than he got with producing. He said, all right, this is what we on. I'm gonna just go up there and say a whole bunch of shit. And he started getting comfortable up there. And
super comfortable. So comfortable that you made yourself a home, like you made the feds your home.
just started saying anything. You know what I'm saying? Bricc Baby too. Go up there and say anything. Now, I don't know, like, I'm not for sure, but there gotta be some rules and regulations about what the fuck you can talk about in terms of like the hood and shit like that. And I think they just lost all sense of that. And they just got blinded by the opportunity, got blinded by the money, got blinded by the fame. And they just started just going, oh, this is what they want to hear. Just keep on talking and keep on doing shit and saying shit and talking about this and talking about that without remembering that you're on camera, and anything and everything that you say can be used against you in court if they put a case on you. And clear as day, obviously they put a case on them, and now all of that that you said on No Jumper, all of that that you said on Cam Capone, all of that that you said wherever the you went, now that is getting drawn up, and now they're using this as evidence. They're using this as maybe not evidence, but they're using what you're saying to paint their story. And it's definitely going to help the DA and to frame the story about you. You know what I'm saying? That you're this because you're on camera saying it. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like, yo, man, this should be a clear case study on what not to do in front of the camera. This should be a clear sign of.
This is definitely a good example of the do nots. Definitely a good example of the do nots.
What not to say, what not to talk about on camera. And I don't know why they ain't learned from other people. I don't know why you ain't learned from ARAB and all these other people that got up here and said whatever and got cases, and now they've gone forever. But I think that they was just blinded by that little fame and little momentum and little money they was getting from Adam. And Adam don't give a fuck. Adam go up there and say, yeah, that's my homie. That's my friend. But let's say the feds press Adam and they want some information, and Adam has some information on Bricc Baby and tell Adam, yo, listen, it's either that or we gonna give you a case. Give us the information or we gonna give you the case. What the you think Grand Mason gonna do? Huh?
You gonna get the information.
That's when he's gonna turn into Grand Mason and not Adam22. That's when he's gonna turn into that. I think people just got too comfortable, and it's not Adam22 fault. It's not Vlad TV fault. It's not none of these people's fault. It's not their fault, but they are promoting this. They are instigating this. And yeah, of course, it's up to you to say it. But if you presenting money and you presenting people like Bricc Baby, I just feel like he ain't got no backbone. A person like Bricc Baby ain't got no backbone. Like, and when I say backbone, is like you can be bought. He can be bought. He can be allured with money. He can be tricked with money, fame, and opportunity. He'll trade friendships for that. He'll call somebody a brother. And if, there's an opportunity and he has to throw his brother, his homie, or somebody that he knows that he called his friend under the bus, he gonna do that because he did that to me. That just shows.
Damn. I didn't even know Bricc Baby China Mac had a history. I definitely didn't even know that. That's crazy.
It was me that he's a certain type of caliber of person. And with that being presented, a person like Adam22 can just trick you into saying whatever. And a person like Wack 100 tricked Loose Cannon to say whatever. I think Wack 100 had this whole mapped out. He's a very strategic
person. It's true.
He knows the whole dynamic between Big U and Loose Cannon, and they used to be together-ish. And this is what I saw academics say, and I said that, and I thought that there was validity to it. You know what I'm saying? That Wack 100 used that. He played chess with this whole got people up out of there because, So with that being said, man, people just got to be smart. People got to be smart and don't have a backbone, bro. If you know you're not supposed to be doing it, don't let money make you do it. You know what I'm saying? Don't let opportunity or the promise of opportunity make you do it, because that opportunity ain't going to do shit for you when you in the feds looking at 10, 20, whatever
that's real. When you looking at them calendars, bro, like that's crazy.
Years you're looking at whatever money you made, now that's gonna have to go to lawyers. You know what I'm saying? You probably spent that money on lien and whatever the perks and shit like that. You spent all that shit already, so now you got to come up with money for lawyer fees. So it's not worth it. You know what I'm saying? It's not worth it.
China Mac just made a really good point, bro. And decision making is everything. So with that being said, be better today than what you were yesterday. Be even better tomorrow. But today, be at your absolute very best. It's red dots to the left. You know the rest. And it's Free Avenue Angel, so he's free.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? On and off the mat, we're going to treat you how you're supposed to be treated, my guy. So, real quick, we got Brandon. He was just in here. He was just on No Jumper today. Well, almighty suspect. You look like you where you at? Muay Thai?
Oh, I'm about to go in. I'm about to train in a few minutes.
I know what that ceiling look like. Yeah. So
right.
Real quick before you go in.
Oh yeah, I heard of Brandon before. It's Flacco's friend. Okay, so that's who Almighty got into it with?
Boxer, Muay Thai, black belt in jiu-jitsu. With all that being said, at first, I'm not gonna lie, I was on some nigga shit. I'm like, damn, bro, you got marked out. And then upon watching the entire everything, and I'm looking at your posture and I'm listening to your dialogue, you have the patience of a black belt professor. So I can understand why you're not finna risk your freedom or your safety or your health or even accidentally fucking yourself up trying to do something to somebody else when you can get it cracking on the mat.
I mean, the thing is, I'm a professor. Like, I teach. I got a lot of students, like a couple hundred students. You can't just be out here fighting on every little frivolous thing and then going back telling like little kids, like I coach kids too. You can't be telling them to be patient and calm, and then you out here squabbling with dudes who are basically drug addicts. There's no win in that for me. If I beat up almighty suspect, what they gonna say? Oh, you way bigger than him. Oh, bro, a tweaker. You gotta just assess the situation. I was telling Adam, bro, we look at fighting from two different perspectives. Bro thinking, oh, bro, I'm about to go out here and throw some punches, maybe get a punch or two on bro. Even when he stood up when I'm sitting on the couch, I'm like, bro, I could just double leg this fool to the ground and it'll be over before it even starts.
Not even knowing your fight start from a sitting position.
He's not even thinking about that. He just up trying to keep that hood on, running his mouth. I'm just like, bro, on top of that, You're so high, you're slurring your speech. That's why we got into the hard ER situation, which we've already saw from a clip from Adam. He's said that several times. So what I was asking him was true. He just got mad, and he's just used to dealing with people.
Let's find this clip. Let's find this clip, yo. I wanna shout the trap though for that content, but I do wanna find this clip, yo. I wanna see what this whole thing is.
Josh,
It didn't feel exactly like he.
shut up, nigga. They don't speak on fighting if you ain't gonna do
No,
nothing.
I said you don't want to fight.
Oh, I do. Let's go outside.
No.
I do.
Oh,
A nigga who wanna fight don't.
Welcome to the news. Today is Wednesday, April 20th.
Now, if it ain't one thing,
Shout out to Clip World TV. Shout out my nigga Clip, man.
Bet your bottom dollar on it.
Shit, actually, no, we gonna make a whole nother video with this, yo. We can check out some two gangsters for YouTube real quick. Just a little sneak peek. We gonna do a video about this too.
What it do,
YouTube,
what
it
do?
do?
Big U just had his court day yesterday. Now, we all know that Big U got his bail denied, but a lot of people didn't know that 600 was there. My boy caused a big scene in the courtroom. Big U's family asked the judge to remove Lovejoy. This reminded me of what happened between Eddie Boy and Loose Cannon. Now, let's talk about what happened in court. Ahead of the hearing, tensions ran high. Henley's family confronted Lovejoy, questioning why was he there in court and whether he was there to testify. And they accused Lovejoy, who has more than 100,000 Instagram followers, of being disrespectful to Big U. Lovejoy said, "I'm here supporting," is what he told the family, who, a woman identifying herself as Big U's sister. And 600 said to court, when Lovejoy walked into the courtroom, he sat in the front row and said this to Big U: "How you doing, man?" Henley did not respond back. Now let's stop it right there and break this all down. Lovejoy showed up to Big U's court. He was there to antagonize him in court. I guess he feels brave now that Big U is locked up. Lovejoy said he was there to support. And when Big U's sister asked him who was he supporting, this man said, "I'm there to support the court." Man, that's some nasty work right there. More than a dozen of Henley's family members and friends were present in court on Tuesday afternoon and listened as prosecutors played a video of Henley made before he surrendered himself to authorities, blaming people posting on social media for the case against him. Among those, he blamed Christopher Lovejoy, a boxer known as 600 who was there in the front row. But Butler denied Henley's claims, saying none of those individuals have ever spoken to law enforcement. Now let's stop it right there and break this all down, because this part is interesting. Why does Butler, who's assistant United States attorney, feels obligated to say 600 ain't a rat and that he has never spoken to them boys in blue? That right there doesn't sound right to me. There's a whole bunch of people rumored to be rats, so how come they never clarify that those guys ain't snitching and that those guys ain't working with them boys? Also, why would the attorney respond to 600? 600 is not on Big U's RICO. He's not even in the case. So why would they go out of their own way to say that he ain't a rat? Something is not adding up, my boy. When everybody was calling Bricc Baby a rat last week, how come they never came to his aid? Why didn't they say that Bricc Baby ain't no snitch? Loose Cannon is calling Big U a snitch every day. So how come they never said that Big U never told, or Big U never cooperated with the feds? Man, something ain't adding up. But you guys, let me know what you guys think. Like and subscribe to my channel. Peace. I'm out.
All right, so all right, kosher bro, shit. Where is this video at, bro? That you said law and crime, right? We gonna do that one, bro. We can do the Shannon Sharp one first, bro. We could do the Dirk. Which one you want to do? The Dirk, the Shannon Sharp. Which one? Let me know. I think we're gonna do the Dirk. Yeah, do the Shannon
To my
Sharp.
family, friends, supporters, and colleagues, I want to speak to you directly and from the heart. This is a shakedown.
We have a new public response, a new disturbing piece of audio, and new graphic text messages. The legal battle between NFL Hall of Famer Shannon Sharp and his sexual assault accuser definitely has intensified. As we go through these new developments, who's telling the truth about what really happened? Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. A new legal war has begun, and this time it's between NFL Hall of Famer, podcaster, commentator Shannon Sharp and the woman who's accusing him of sexually assaulting and raping her as recently as January of this year. Now, we covered this earlier in the week, but now, not only has Shannon Sharp fired back in a major way, releasing a public message, a response, apparently revealing the identity of this Jane Doe, but he's also published never before seen apparent text messages between the two. Quite a response, to say the least. And then what happens? You think the story ends there? No. She fires back by releasing an apparent audio tape between her and Shannon Sharp. This is crossed to a whole different kind of level, and I want to get into what we're seeing right now. We're going to break it down, but first, let's take a step back. Let's learn a little bit more about the backstory, what's happening here. So, we have 56-year-old Shannon Sharp, who is
Oh damn, he's 56. I thought he's doing like 45.
She's going by the pseudonym Jane Doe, and she is suing him for $50 million in Nevada court. She claims that after meeting Shannon Sharp at the gym back in 2023 and beginning a consensual relationship with him, who, by the way, she claims is 30 years older than her, it escalated into him allegedly insisting they record their sexual activity, sometimes without her knowledge, him sharing those videos with others, him allegedly telling her that he would do things to her that, quote, would make no other man want her, that he allegedly manipulated her, controlled her, threatened her, intimidated her, was able to gain access to her apartment complex without her permission. For example, this is from the lawsuit. It reads, "The verbal abuse never stopped.
Bro, it's cooked. Bro, it's cooked.
From the beginning. One time specifically, he was yelling at her while there was a firearm visible in his room. Terrified for her safety, plaintiff tried sharing her location with friends from her iPhone just in case. But Sharp saw her doing this. The moment he realized what she was doing, he grabbed her by the neck and told her, if you ever do that again, I will bleeping kill you. And then this finally all allegedly culminated with Jane Doe claiming that in October of 2020,
Damn. If you ever do that, then I'll fucking kill you.
Sharp violently sexually assaulted and raped her in Las Vegas, all while she was allegedly sobbing. And she claims he did this again recently in January of 2025, her allegedly begging him to stop as this was purportedly going on. So she has sued him for assault, sexual battery, sexual battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress. She's being represented by Texas attorney Tony Busby, who we know famously represented a Jane Doe in a now defunct sexual assault lawsuit against Jay-Z. He represents several accusers in actions against Sean Diddy Combs as well. But as I mentioned, Shannon Sharp has responded. This is what we want to get into. And let me tell you, did he respond? A lot of money at stake in this case, right? And talking money, actually, how about getting money back? Let me tell you about Upside. Upside is fantastic. It is a free app that gets you cash back when you buy daily essentials. I pump my gas, I can use Upside. I go out to lunch at Chipotle, I can use Upside. Maybe I get something at 7-Eleven, I can use Upside. And why not get cash back when I do all these things, right? And yes, this is actual real cash back. It's money that appears in your Upside app that you transfer right into your bank account. So once you have the free Upside app, you claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. You pay as usual using a debit or credit card. You follow the steps on the app, you get paid. To find out how much you could earn, click the link in the description to download Upside or scan the QR code on screen. But make sure to use our promo code SIDEBAR because you'll get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. So first, we have this statement from him on his Instagram where he says that he's going to be open, transparent, defend himself because this isn't right. And he says that this whole thing is being orchestrated by Tony Busby.
Tony Busby targets black men, and I believe he's going to release a 30-second clip of a sex tape that tries to make me look guilty and play into every stereotype you could possibly imagine. That video should actually be 10 minutes or so. Hey, Tony, instead of releasing your edit, put the whole video out. I don't have it, or I would myself. You know what happened, and you're trying to manipulate the media.
And he goes on to say that the encounter in question took place during the day at the invitation of Jane Doe, says that this was all a deliberate setup by her. He also, by the way, revealed her first name, and apparently her name that she purportedly uses on OnlyFans. We're not going to reveal those names here. We're not going to do that. But he does go on to say, quote, "My career is all about real talk and honesty. I know my family and fans know exactly what this is about, and I'm going to be out there telling you whatever I need to say, just like I always do." And we also got a statement from his attorney, Lonnie J. Davis, and that reads, "Mr. Sharp categorically denies all allegations of coercion or misconduct, especially the gross lie of rape, and will not submit to what he sees as an egregious attempt at blackmail. He stands firmly by the truth and is prepared to fight these false claims vigorously in court." And Davis has also commented about that apparent tape that was seemingly referenced by Sharp, because he accuses Jane Doe of providing a, quote, secretly recorded and heavily edited video to them that purports to be a non-consensual encounter of some kind. But Davis claimed that Jane Doe, quote, has refused to provide a copy of the full unedited version of the recording to Mr. Sharp's legal team. And then there's this. Sharp and his legal team released all of these apparent text messages between him and this Jane Doe, reportedly 44 pages worth of communications. For example, as reported by TMZ, there's one apparent message from October 2023 where Jane Doe seemingly messages Sharp, "I want you to put a dog collar around my neck and choke me with it while you're bleeping me." Now, the New York Post reporting on other messages allegedly from Jane Doe, like, "Tie me up and do bad things to me. I know you missed this big, juicy bleep, 25K for each cheek. Tie me up like this and bleep me." Replying, "If I knew how to, I would." She then allegedly wrote back, "It's okay, I have handcuffs. We can stick to those for now." Jane Doe also allegedly writing, "I want like some hardcore BDSM action though, and feeling kind of freaky lately." And then you have this apparent message from March 14th, 2024. "I want to be abused, daddy." And then another message from last year where she apparently wrote him, "I've always wanted a black baby." Now, Lonnie Davis commented,
Oh, whoa, bro. Why he wants to settle for 10 million sounds guilty. It sure does, kosher. It sure does, bro.
that, quote, "The evidence paints..."
But this is crazy, bro. Ah, it's just making him look more like a weirdo when he's putting out these texts, bro. I mean, uh, you know what? I think we're just gonna do this video and we're gonna be out of here. It all depends, bro, on how long it's gonna take. But I'm pretty sure we're gonna do this video, then we can make another video for the dirt almighty. Shit. Shit.
This was a consensual adult relationship that included role-playing, sexual language, and fantasy scenarios. So what happens then? Again, this is not the end of the story. Jane Doe ends up releasing an audio tape seemingly between her and Sharp. And I'm going to explain part of what is heard on this tape. We can't play it for legal reasons, but here is part of the exchange, and this part is key. Again, this is from the audio tape. Jane Doe says, "Don't manipulate me." Sharp replies, "If you say that word one more time, I'm going to choke the bleep out of you next time I see you." Jane Doe pauses, takes a minute, and says, "Well, I don't want to be choked." And Sharp replies, "Yes, you do. I don't think you have a choice in the matter." Now, to be clear, this tape may only be a portion of the entire conversation in audio, but this appears to be a portion nonetheless. Jane Doe's attorney, again, Tony Busby, described this audio as, quote, "The contents of this clip are certainly not sexual. They are not playful. They are instead disturbing, aggressive, and dangerous. This audio paints a very clear picture of how Sharp treated Jane Doe, leading her to escape from him by leaving Nevada and blocking all contact with him." And he added that they released this audio in response to Sharp's lawyer, Lonnie Davis, trying to discredit Jane Doe by releasing all of these alleged texts, which, by the way, Busby says are basically irrelevant because they're all before the alleged assault. Okay, so now I want to bring on Mauricio Padilla, litigator, criminal defense attorney, to talk more about this. Mauricio, thanks so much for taking the time. Let's just start with the lawsuit and the allegation suing for $50 million. very graphic details about these multiple alleged sexual assaults and rapes. Your take just on the initial lawsuit and allegations.
I mean, my take on the initial lawsuit and allegations and the publicity that's come right after it. I mean, there's rules of ethics to prohibit people from trying their case in the media. And I think from the onset, both sides are engaging in releasing what could be evidence. And the rules of ethics from state to state vary, but they pretty much usually are concentrated on not releasing any information that could possibly affect a jury. And they're out there releasing pages and pages of text messages. They're out there releasing audio. It looks to me like both sides are engaged in trying to litigate this in the media before litigating it in a court of law. But isn't that the Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively effect, right? Isn't that what we're seeing now? It's the idea of let's battle this out on the court of public opinion, particularly, by the way, when you're dealing with such a public figure like Shannon Sharpe. The idea of if I'm fighting this in a court of law, but I'm also fighting this in the court of public opinion, if I can put enough out there to try to reverse the narrative, maybe not only I'll still retain my fan base, my career, but also it puts pressure on Jane Doe maybe to stop the lawsuit, or maybe not, because she fired back too. No, I'm not saying that they shouldn't do it, because unfortunately we live in a time where if you don't do that on behalf of your client, are you doing them a disservice? I'm just mentioning the fact that none of this is really allowed pursuant to the rules of ethics, but I understand why they're doing it, because nowadays pretty much the court of public opinion is dictating what happens in court in and of itself. Right. So it's just part of litigating cases nowadays. Are you concerned by the content, the value of those text message conversations? Does it complicate this case? Let me rephrase. Putting aside, assuming these really are the real conversations and the real messages of Jane Doe, you could say, I mean, she's talking about BDSM, tying up, dog collars, choking, and then she accuses him of sexual assault and being violent with her. Let me actually read you something from the lawsuit. Okay, so this is from the lawsuit. It says, a woman can say yes to consensual sexual relations with a man 99 times, but when she says no, even once, that no means no. Defendant Shannon Sharpe, a man who is accustomed to getting what he wants, completely fails to understand this basic concept. After many months of manipulating and controlling plaintiff, a woman more than 30 years younger than he, and repeatedly threatening to brutally choke and violently slap her, Sharpe refused to accept the answer no and raped plaintiff despite her sobbing and repeated screams of no. So you look at those messages, are they irrelevant? If you establish a pattern of, S&M, a pattern of voluntarily submitting yourself to someone, to accepting, violence, to accepting as part of the norm of your sex life, then obviously that's something that could be used, because he's going to say, yeah, it was consensual. So when a jury's trying to analyze whether or not these acts of violence were consensual or not, they can obviously look to the history of the relationship and whether or not she's going to admit it. So now you put her on the stand and you're like, so you allowed him to choke you. You allowed him to hit you previously. And that was something that you guys engaged in, voluntary sexual behavior, and you found it pleasurable. And you did it for the X amount of months. But then on this particular day, you told him no. So it's something that it's fruitful to bring up a trial. I think they would be doing them a disservice if they didn't explore that more. And yeah, ultimately, what Mr. Busby's saying is true. A woman can say yes 99 times and say no that 100th time, but the historical behavior of accepting violence as the norm in your bedroom and in your sex life is something that a jury can look at to determine whether or not she did in fact say no, because he's going to say that she said yes. He's not going to admit that she said no, that he raped her. No, I hear you. And I knew that he was going to get on the defensive. I mean, if you believe his side, right, that he's completely innocent, you get hit with this lawsuit, right? You want to defend yourself immediately. He goes out, he puts out this message on Instagram. Do you think he was advised by his lawyer to do so? Let's start there. And B, purportedly outing her, naming her name, just the first name, and also what her apparent handle is or name on OnlyFans. Is that appropriate? That right? I mean, again, he's defending himself, but she filed this anonymously. Right. Well, whether or not his attorney advised him to do it, if he took those steps without discussing it with his attorney should be very upset at him doing something of that nature. I don't think that an attorney can counsel their client to disclose the identity of a victim in a sex case. So I don't think that his attorney would ever admit to taking those steps simply because there's laws to protect victims in sex crimes. But I understand why it's beneficial to his defense. I'm putting it out there. I'm saying who you are. I'm saying that you're an OnlyFans person. I'm saying that we were engaged in this voluntary sexual behavior where you possibly accepted money to do sexual things on camera or do sexual things for me. So it definitely benefits his defense in letting people know, listen, this is not the person that Busby's saying that it is. This is the person that I'm telling you who she is. So I think it's beneficial.
And to reverse it, I said this when I covered it earlier in the week. This lawsuit being filed by Tony Busby, he's got crosshairs on him right now. He filed a lawsuit against Jay-Z by a Jane Doe who claims that she was sexually assaulted by Jay-Z when she was 13 years old back in 2000. That lawsuit against him was dropped. The NBC did a report questioning the credibility of some of her claims. His attorneys came forward and said, no, we have proof that the people you say were there weren't there. And that lawsuit was dropped. He's now being sued. That Jane Doe is being sued. You would think, okay, if this happened, I'm going to maybe take a little step back here. But to go so public and forward with allegations against a high-profile figure like Shannon Sharpe, he must not only believe the account of Jane Doe, he must believe he's got the goods to back it up.
Definitely. And listen, when you're an attorney, you have wiggle room in the sense that if you have a client that's telling you what their version, you have to act reasonably, and you can't just believe someone that you may have knowledge that she suffers from psychiatric conditions, but you have a lot of leeway. Like, you have a client that's telling you, you're allowed to believe your client and you're allowed to litigate on their behalf. And obviously there's rules in place for a lawyer not to pipe or a complete myth and sue people without a basis. But when you do have a client that's telling you what occurred, I think he has a lot of leeway in the way that he.
So y'all think that Tony Busby's making this up? Or you think it's real?
To believe that client. Now, there's limits, and apparently, regarding the Jay-Z, fronted with evidence that he couldn't refute regarding the lack of liability, then he dropped the lawsuit. If he's defending his own lawsuit, that's separate from this one. So I don't look at the totality.
The audio tape. This is what our relationship was like, but
submissive to me, and then I was,
I will tell you this, and said it was at least $10 million. So the idea that if that's true, they tried to get to settle it, and then she files, and now they have their messages ready. What does that tell you?
Listen, I think that's part of what Busby has been doing historically. Like, they approach you and they tell you, listen, we have this. Let me know if you want to resolve this previously. I think if anybody looks at, like, the P. Diddy didn't do it, right? And then they filed against him and he settled the case in a day. We see the value of resolving cases. So I think it's on par with how Busby has been litigating prior cases.
True. Only reason why I asked that is because, like, those texts are portraying that maybe she was into that. But I
if when you look at it, settlement negotiations are usually privileged. If someone hears that he offered $10 million, what is a normal person going to think? He's guilty of something. Because people don't just, even if you're rich, don't go out there throwing around tens million or millions of dollars to resolve cases when they're innocent. People are gonna associate that offer of settlement, which they probably shouldn't, but they will. They're gonna associate that offer of settlement with guilt.
At the time of this recording, I haven't seen Shannon Sharpe file a countersuit of any kind, but talk to me if this works. Could he countersue for defamation, or is there a litigation privilege, right? You're allowed to make claims against somebody. You're shielded away from every time anybody sues anybody, the other side will say it's not true. You can't just turn around and say it's defamation, right? I mean, could he sue for defamation?
Right. Well, you're right. There is a litigation privilege regarding defamation actions. So I always tell people this when people ask me, can they sue? People can sue all the time. Whether or not it's going to survive a motion to dismiss, honestly, I've seen it in my career over 22 years. People sue for things that are ultimately going to get dismissed, and it doesn't affect their willingness to do it, their desire to do it. But you're right. There is a litigation privilege because I guess the mindset, the universal mindset is that you don't want to be gagging people in a court of law. You want people to have the freedom to express themselves openly without the threat of litigation while they're in litigation. And that's the entire. So to answer your question, it seems like you're right. A litigation privilege does apply, but nowadays people get sued for all kind of things.
And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a countersuit because, again, his perspective is this is blackmail. These are false allegations. And by the way, what's the timing of it? And by the way, when we talk about Shannon Sharpe, he's a powerhouse in the podcast space. Hosts Club Shay Shay, Nightcap, tons of followers. According to Front Office Sports, he's expected right now to sign a new contract worth more than $100 million. Do you think that comes into play at all?
The problem with people that have those types of contracts is it doesn't have to mean that you're guilty or not guilty. Just the news in and of itself is going to affect your ability to get followers, to do your job.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely going to blemish his character.
And to execute contracts. Now, if he loses $100 million contract because of this, whether there's a litigation privilege or not, you can expect a lawsuit. Even if the standard for a motion to dismiss is lower than the standard for a motion for summary judgment, you could file a lawsuit. You could survive motion to dismiss, and routinely judges don't like to decide cases on summary judgment, and they often say that almost anything is an issue of fact for the jury because they know they're not going to get appealed when they make that type of ruling, and they like to kick it to a jury even if it is the type of case that shouldn't survive motion for summary judgment. So what I'm saying is that even if you have a clear defense, even if they don't have a good case, a lawsuit is still something that can be fruitful to either side.
Do you think this is going to end up settling, or is it now just too far down? How do you settle it without one side looking bad?
The problem is when you're dealing with someone like him, that his livelihood
That's true
depends
too.
on the way that people view him, on whether or not people reject him or not, whether or not people are going to tune in or not. Once we're at this point where me and you are discussing it publicly, and it's out in the media, then how do you really repair his reputation? We look at like Johnny Depp, how Johnny Depp had to spend millions of dollars to sue Amber Heard, and at the end of the day, the entire lawsuit was just for him to get back whatever reputation he had, so it wouldn't affect his ability to make money in the future. So, in my opinion, I think that the genie's out of the bottle, and resolving it at this point isn't going to do anything for his reputation and his career. But you never know.
Yeah, I'm sure. And look, there could be a lot more to this as this case ultimately progresses. Mauricio Padilla, thanks so much for taking the time. Good to see you.
All right. So we're going to do the dirt one now.
Rap superstar Lil Durk locked up right now, accused of ordering a hit on a rival rapper, but his defense says the government's only proof that Durk was involved is based on a random video they found on YouTube. And now they brought in music producers who've worked with Durk, and it might just blow up the whole case. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Did Chicago rapper Dirk Banks, also known as Lil Durk, orchestrate a murder-for-hire plot against Quando Rondo that ended with the rival's cousin dead and multiple people caught up in the conspiracy? Well, that's what the government's alleging, and they point to Dirk's own song lyrics as proof of his alleged actions. That's what we want to focus on, because the defense says there is a big problem with that Dirk recorded those lyrics months before the alleged murder for hire. And unless he had a time machine or he could predict the future, there's really no way they could be about this killing, about this alleged murder. So Dirk's team has filed a motion to dismiss the federal indictment against him, or at the very least, release information about what the government showed the grand jury to support the charges in this case. The motion reads, quote, Defendant Dirk Banks, through his counsel of record, moves the court to dismiss the superseding indictment against him in this matter. In the alternative, he moves to compel disclosure of the grand jury minutes and evidence the government presented to the grand jury. Now, before we dive into the juicy details into this filing, I do want to give you just a quick history on how we got here, in case you're not familiar with it. So, after the death of his friend King Von back in 2020, Dirk reportedly put out a hit on Quando Rondo, a rival rapper in Georgia that Dirk allegedly believed was the instigator behind his friend being killed. So prosecutors say in 2022, Dirk found out that Rondo was going to be in Los Angeles. So he allegedly organized members of his crew, a rap collective called Only the Family, or OTF, to travel to Southern California and target Rondo. And the government claims that OTF is a criminal enterprise that has engaged in violence, including murder and assault. Investigators believe that Dirk's right-hand man, Kevon Grant, was the one who secured the cars, the hotel rooms, and the guns for this assassination of Rondo. An October 2024 indictment accused multiple defendants of following Quando Rondo's black Escalade around LA on August 19th, 2022. In fact, traffic camera photos show a white Infiniti following the SUV until it pulls into a gas station. And the filing also apparently includes surveillance photos of the suspects appearing to fire guns toward the gas pumps. Yeah, not a great idea. At least 18 rounds were fired at the car in broad daylight, including apparently a machine gun. Remember, during a busy afternoon at a gas station. This is a blatant attack. Now, Quando Rondo actually wasn't hurt in the shooting, but it turns out, in a sad turn of events, his cousin, Savia Robinson, referred to as SR in court documents, was killed. When the indictment against several people, including Kevon Grant, came down in federal court, Dirk wasn't even named as a defendant yet. Rather, he was an alleged collaborator identified as co-conspirator 1. However, in a superseding indictment a few weeks later, that is when Dirk was added officially as a named defendant and was charged with conspiracy and use of interstate facilities to commit murder for hire resulting in death, and use, carry, and discharge of firearms and a machine gun in furtherance of a crime of violence resulting in death. And while Dirk isn't actually accused of being at the Beverly Hills gas station when this apparent shooting happened, prosecutors say he was the one who called for the hit. He was the one who ordered it. He helped facilitate travel to Los Angeles, and he paid the men who actually did the shooting. Prosecutors allege that Dirk texted a co-conspirator, "Don't book no flights under no names involved with me." But since that time, Dirk offered a substantial bail package to get pretrial detention. The judge denied it. He has maintained his innocence, and now his lawyers are arguing this whole case against him needs to be tossed out. And it all relates back to rap lyrics sung by Dirk as a feature on a song by another artist, Babyface Ray. And the prosecution claims that Dirk rapped about Savia Robinson's death, commercializing his alleged revenge. So here are the lyrics that the prosecution is talking about. Quote, "Told me they got an Addy, go, go. Got location, go, go. Green light, go, 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 go. Look on the news and see your son, you screaming no, no." Now, prosecutors seem to claim that the no, no part comes from when Quando Rondo was apparently screaming no, no when his cousin was shot. And they reference how the song allegedly has audio of Rondo screaming that, reportedly taken from news footage. But the defense says that couldn't be farther from the truth. All right, so to talk about this, I want to bring on civil rights attorney Joe Richardson, who I'm so happy to see. I haven't seen Joe in quite some time. So, Joe, thanks so much for taking the time to come back here on Sidebar. Look at that face. Always smiling, always happy to be on.
Good to see you,
and
Jesse.
I'm happy to talk to you about this because this has been a hot topic over the last couple of years. Can prosecutors take what's said in rap lyrics, in song lyrics, and use it as a kind of confession? Generally speaking, I mean, how does it work? Is it, have we seen it a lot in trials? Has it been persuasive?
We've seen it happen quite a bit. I don't know that I'd say it's been persuasive. I think the biggest example we look at is Young Thug down in Atlanta. They took a lot of his lyrics, and even though technically speaking, ultimately they got a conviction, he actually walked out on time served. Most of the people that were prosecuted didn't end up being convicted. And I don't think anybody would call that prosecution a successful prosecution. And so, you know, you've got freedom of speech issues. Does it mean that just because I'm saying something in a rap song, it typically is a rap song, does that mean that I actually did something? And this is an extra interesting twist here because Lil Durk's attorney is saying, well, this song was actually released months before the murder. So he can't say in the past tense that I did something that I hadn't done that hadn't happened several months before. So we're seeing it more and more. I don't know if I'd say it's successful, but it's interesting that they've used this to get a superseding indictment.
Talking legal issues like this, how can I not bring up legal experts, our sponsor, our partner, Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. You know why they're so large? Listen to this. Past few months, Morgan & Morgan secured a $9.3 million verdict for a car crash victim in Florida, $5.6 million verdict for another car accident victim in Atlanta, and not to mention $1.8 million in Kentucky after insurance offered them a mere $5,000 in that case. And look, even if you think your case isn't worth millions of dollars, why not start a claim and fight for what you deserve? Morgan & Morgan makes it so simple. You can start a claim from your phone in just 8 clicks. You don't even have to leave your couch. So if you're injured, you can easily start a claim at forthepeople.com/LC sidebar or click the link in the description and pinned in the comments. Do you know how they typically authenticate it at trial? I mean, who do they call to the stand in order to get the lyrics in and you know, say it is what it is? Do you know? I'm just trying to imagine how this might come up at an upcoming federal trial.
Well, there's a couple things, right? First of all, is there actually a reasonable denial that person can make that they actually got on and did the lyrics, right? So it's going to be somebody, I would imagine, from an authentication purpose, somebody that was in the studio, frankly, somebody that they're squeezing that they might know and hear. You've got co-conspirators that have been indicted as well. So it's going to be somebody that was there, as it were, because all other things being equal, Lil Durk's not going to get on the stand and testify against himself because most times people don't. So you're going to authenticate it in kind of regular ways. Someone that would have
So
cause to
true.
know that these were the lyrics that were made.
I mean, but they've been doing that since shit. They've been doing that since what, Boosie, right? Pretty sure they started listening to lyrics ever since Boosie's case. Like they did it, they just brought it back again for Doug's case, and they do that a lot. They bring up the lyrics in the court to try to pinpoint actions that were done off of the lyrics.
Now, it's a separate issue entirely as to whether or not you can authenticate or confirm this is what the lyrics were about. This is what they were talking about. Here's the backdrop, and all of those other things become subject to cross-examination, et cetera.
So I want to dive into this motion to dismiss and get into the meat of it. So it reads, quote, "The government presented false evidence to the grand jury that indicted Mr. Banks on November 7th, 2024. The plain language of the superseding indictment makes it apparent that the government told the grand jury that Mr. Banks, through specific lyrics in his music, celebrated and profited from a revenge murder that he had ordered, namely that of SR in August of 2022. That claim is demonstrably false. The song the government relied upon as evidence against Mr. Banks, Wonderful Wayne and Jackie Boy, a song that was recorded by another artist, Babyface Ray, and in which Mr. Banks recorded a feature for, could not have been a commercialization of Mr. Banks' alleged murder for hire of SR as the government represented to the grand jury. That is because Mr. Banks recorded the lyrics for Wonderful Wayne 7 months before the incident even happened. The government's misrepresentation in the superseding indictment, whether knowing or reckless, undermines the integrity of the grand
I
jury."
mean, 7 months isn't that long a time, and that has nothing to do with it, really. Like that's just a song. So yeah, that's wrongfully accusing him of murder for hire just off of that.
Jury's true bill against Mr. Banks. The court should dismiss the superseding indictment against him as a result. Now, the defense argues that the court has the power to dismiss an indictment that the grand jury returned based on information that the government knew at the time to be or later learned to have been false. Joe, so you got to have a good foundation here, right? Talk to me about that argument, because I guess the counter argument would be, well, in the end, based on the prosecution's allegations, he did exactly what he rapped about. So it's, maybe it's not necessarily predicting the future. He maybe anticipated what was going to happen and did it.
I think that if I'm the defense, I'm going to focus on the misrepresentation, assuming there was a misrepresentation. Right now, it's a horse of another color.
Does that mean the indictment?
This particular piece of evidence isn't key and isn't fundamental. And so, of course, if I'm the defense, that's what I would be saying.
By the way, I didn't mention this. There's a First Amendment argument here, right? That this violates the First Amendment. Can you talk about that?
Oh, yeah, do.
Right, for sure. I mean, I'm expressing myself. I can say the things that I want to say in a rap record or in.
There you go. That's what it was. I was thinking like, who was the person that way back got in trouble for his lyrics? It was, yeah, you're right. It was X rated. Yep, you're looking Google Mike. But yeah. I think Boosie though too. No, could have been just X rated.
Any kind of record. And you could go back and there's country records and there are pop records and there are R&B records that talk about all kinds of things. It's just that there's this notion that with hip hop, quote, glorifying violence, that suddenly now we're going to use these things to prosecute them. But does that mean that the free speech, the First Amendment has gone away? No, absolutely not. He can absolutely rap about what he wants to rap
Yeah,
about.
for sure. I
And
thought so.
that
Yep.
doesn't mean
You're
just
looking.
because the story is violent, just because a Tupac story is violent, just because a Biggie Smalls story is violent, that doesn't mean that that ought to be used to in turn put together the cogs to actually criminally prosecute someone because there is still free speech.
Now, the counter argument would be it's a statement. It's a statement that, is relevant. It's on point with the actual issue, the case. How can we not be able to use it same way? If somebody does an interview, like I'm talking about the Karen Reed case, right? She does an interview. Yes, it's a media interview, but technically can be used against you. What you say can be used against you. Let me ask you this, though, about it. If the government was wrong, okay, if the government didn't realize the time frame of it, or even now, they suggest that, it was a problem. We shouldn't have included it. How could they make that mistake, assuming it was a mistake or an error in some fashion? I mean, doesn't that show a potential weakness in the prosecution overall? I'm not saying that's what they're arguing. I'm not saying that's where this is going to go. But if you take the defense's argument as true, that would be a big slip up for the prosecution, no?
Yeah, and I'll go out on a limb and say that sometimes prosecutors don't necessarily understand hip hop culture. It's almost like a text without context. So you got to really understand the time, the place, the audience. Sometimes they might speak in ways that seem direct to somebody that's outside of the culture, but doesn't necessarily, but can mean several things to someone inside the culture. So it would certainly be a flub big time, right? But it wouldn't be the first time that such a thing has happened where somebody looking through the window, particularly of hip hop culture, doesn't understand what's being said other than their desired use of it, right? And so maybe that's a situation. It shouldn't be. Listen, there's got to be a prosecutor back there that's got the context that knows what's going on in the street. They prosecute folks that are in hip hop culture that aren't necessarily rappers. They prosecute folks that are, accused of being drug dealers, this or that and the other, or in gangs or whatever it may be. And as part of that is understanding the language, understanding what someone means when they say something, understanding manner and timing and all those other things. That's part of their job. The mob speaks in a certain language too. In order to successfully prosecute him, you got to understand the language. So there might be reasons for them screwing that up, but there wouldn't be excuses.
So the defense motion continues, actually. I want to get more into it. It says, quote, the indictment's assertion about Mr. Banks' lyrics, their timing and their meaning is false. When Banks wrote the cited lyrics, SR's killing was still 7 months in the future. For Banks to have been writing about SR would thus have been impossible. The only open question is how such patently false information came to be within the grand jury's purview to begin with. One answer is that the prosecutors who prepared and presented the government's evidence knew that the evidence was false. Another is that the prosecutor who presented the evidence did not know it to be false, but the witness who conveyed it did. And the third answer is that the evidence was obtained and presented with reckless disregard for patent falsity. As explained further below, regardless of the answer, dismissal is warranted. And that actually brings now the defense to their next argument to the judge, which is, quote, if the court is uncertain whether the false information that the government presented to the grand jury requires dismissal, the court should order the government to produce the transcripts and evidence from the grand jury proceedings. Now, Joe, we'll get into this argument a little bit more, but generally speaking, I know under the federal rules, a court may authorize disclosure of grand jury matters if the defense asks pursuant to a motion to dismiss. I just wonder how often is that request successful to get that material? Because grand jury material is secret, generally speaking, right?
Right. It generally is, and you want to preserve the integrity of the grand jury. But it's almost grand jury is kind of like this secret thing, and we go and we're not telling you what we're mixing up and what we're putting together, but we produce an indictment, right? But I would argue that this particular notion, this particular set of circumstances, would justify revealing the information from the grand jury transcript because it's directly on point to the presentation that the prosecution made in order to get the indictment. And so it is unusual because you want to present.
Yeah, because okay, look. At first, when they got Dirk, right, it was all, oh yeah, okay, he's wrongfully accused. Blah, blah, blah. He was about to get bail, but then they put the murder for hire shit on him, and then that shit made the whole indictment. Before that, what did he get picked up for? What exactly did he get picked up for? Was it a parole? Not parole violation. Was it a poll or what did he get picked up for? I'm trying to remember. Or was it just a case already built ahead of time on him? I'm trying to remember because I remember I was doing that shit. I did content on that shit months and months ago. I haven't really been tuning in or really checking out the latest shit on it until right now. That's why I'm asking. What exactly did he get picked up for before the murder for hire charge came out? And it was a RICO and shit.
Preserve the integrity of grand jury proceedings. Grand juries are carried out a certain way for a certain reason. But that being said, in a situation like this, where you could potentially have something go on that's demonstrably false, and you actually make it from not having an indictment to an indictment based on false information that may have been presented falsely, maybe knowingly, and certainly recklessly, at least, I think you need to know about it.
Now, let me continue with the defense's argument here, Joe. So they say, quote, the problem with these productions, however, is that Mr. Banks did not create these videos, and the government has failed to show any nexus between these manufactured video clips and Mr. Banks. These videos were not created nor posted at Mr. Banks' direction. The internet users who posted the videos, including at OTF Edit and at My Mixtapes, are apparent fan pages maintained by people with no affiliation to Mr. Banks or only the family Inc. The court should order production of the grand jury transcripts to clarify whether in charging Mr. Banks, the grand jury erroneously attributed these or other fan page edits to Mr. Banks, as the government has clearly done. And to bolster that argument, the defense included sworn statements from two producers who worked with Banks on this song and other projects. First, you have Justin Gibson, also known as Just Vibes. So he's a producer and sound engineer who says that he had been working with Lil Durk since 2021. And in his statement, he writes, on January 25th, 2022, I had a recording session with Mr. Banks.
Okay. King Von, Zoo, and Durkio had armed robbery, weapons, and attempted murder cases in Atlanta on GD. Wait, so is that what he got picked up for then? Was it a armed robbery, weapons, and an attempted murder case? And then they just put the murder for hire on him? Is that what you're saying?
Where we recorded the song Wonderful Wayne and Jackie Boy, which at the time we called Too Toxic. I loaded the song up around 5:39 p.m. Mr. Banks then wrote the verse right there in the studio, and we recorded the song and finished in less than an hour. Once we recorded the song, I bounced out a rough draft, saved a copy in audio format, and named it Toxic Babyface featuring Lil Durk at 6:33 p.m. After that, we continued with the rest of the session. And now remember, the shooting at the California gas station happened months later on August 19th, 2022. So the motion includes a second sworn statement, this one from a music producer and audio engineer named Ahmad Sharif. He says, I received Dirk Banks' verse and lyrics for Wonderful Jackie Boy from Justin Gibson on July 22nd, 2022, so the month before. After July 22nd, 2022, I received no other additional lyrics or modifications to the original lyrics from Dirk or anyone in Dirk's camp. And Sheriff then talks about the apparent edits to the song, which includes Quando Rondo screaming, no, no. I have reviewed certain YouTube links concerning the song Wonderful Wayne and Jackie Boy. As a producer and audio engineer who worked on Wonderful Wayne and Jackie Boy, I can confirm that the audio and video clips featuring audio of an individual yelling no, reportedly from a news clip, are not from the original recording. These clips appear to be fan edits, specifically for social media platforms such as TikTok, and are altered, fabricated, and inauthentic versions of the song. Joe, it's a pretty good argument from the defense. Again, if that's true, prosecution didn't figure that out.
Yeah, and you don't even know whether or not what you used actually came from the artist. That's one of the big points that they're making here, is that there were things that were edited later, and that's why it's so much more important for us to understand what the presentation actually was to the grand jury, because demonstrably we could actually probably show that this is something that came from a fan's edit as opposed to what Lil Durk actually did in the studio. So yeah, so there's another reason there that this has ended up being a problem.
Now, I will tell you, I mean, in today's day and age, it's hard to know what's authentic. I see a movie trailer, it looks like the real thing. It was a fan page. AI? Oh my gosh. You think this is going to be the end
For
of it?
real though, I just seen the fucking, what was it, Fast and Furious AI trailer for a new one. Like, bunch of people in it. I seen a Halloween AI trailer. What was the other one? Oh, a Grand Theft Auto movie AI trailer with Will Smith, bro. I was like, what the fuck is this real? Like real as fuck too. So they definitely do be doing that.
Now, in the conclusion of this filing, the defense says a prosecutor who knowingly secures an indictment based upon false information or who allows a falsely obtained indictment to persist routes the grand jury from its central protective function. That is clearly what happened here. For the foregoing reasons, the court should dismiss the superseding indictment against Mr. Banks. In the alternative, the court should compel disclosure of the relevant underlying grand jury proceedings. Joe, how's this going to shake out? You think the court is going to agree, dismiss the indictment? Could they refile it without the lyrics? Do you think the prosecution is going to fight back at it? Because I'll tell you, at last check, we checked the federal court records, and as of this recording on Tuesday morning, neither the judge nor the prosecution has responded to this motion to dismiss. So how's this going to all shake out in the end?
I would think that the defense is going to get one or the other, one being either dismissal of the indictment or a compelling of a review of the transcript so that they can know. I mean, they've got some pretty good notions. Those declarations under penalty of perjury, of course, would tend to suggest very strongly that what came out and what they are using is not, it happened, was done many months prior to the actual killing, and that it might be even in a different form what Lil Durk actually did versus what was actually released and possibly used. Under those circumstances, I think you gotta do something so that you preserve the integrity of the grand jury process. So the defense is hoping for that. In a case like this, based on these particular facts, I think one or the other ought to happen.
Joe Richardson, man, I love having you on. Thank you so much for taking the time. It was great seeing you, and we'll see what happens next.
It's going to be crazy. Thanks much, Jesse. You guys be good.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right, y'all. We're going to be out of here until the next one, man. Everybody like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit that notification bell so I know y'all there so I could throw it to you when it's in the air, man. Next video is coming. Kevin Gates video. Give him about an hour, maybe less. We out of here. Peace.